Good evening and welcome to the March 2025 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. First, we'll start with prayer and pledge. Prayer by Vanessa and pledge by Scott. So please stand.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all here safely. Thank you for the opportunity to serve our community. Please give us the wisdom and discernment to make the best decisions for our residents and for our town. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Scott. Next on tonight's agenda is citizen comments. I'll start by reading this passage here. The town's public comment period shall be reserved for those citizens that have signed up to address a board or committee at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting pursuant to the town's public comment policy. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Additional comments may be submitted in writing. Mitch, do we have any citizen comments this evening?
We do not tonight.
Okay. Since we have no comments, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of minutes for the February 20th, 2025 meeting. I assume y'all have read those. Do we have any comments or do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion. Anyone?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second approval of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have new business. First, we have a setback variance by submitted by Tree of Hope LLC, 528 Breslin Avenue. Mitch?
Yep. This is a setback variance request for the rear setback of 4 feet for an attached sunroom. This would be attached to the principal structure. The addition would be 408 square feet in size. Property is zoned R3, which is medium density residential, and is 10,468 square feet in size, located on a modified cul-de-sac. Minimum rear yard setback requirements in the R3 district is 20 feet for any structure attached to the principal structure. There is a 10-foot public utility and drainage easement located along the rear lot line, which would not be obstructed as part of the proposed addition. In addition, as noted on the recorded plat from 1995, there is a sinkhole or depression area shown in the eastern property corner. This would also not be altered by the request either. A previous permit was applied for an addition to the existing dwelling and was constructed. Upon inspection from the codes department, it was found that the structure was not built to dimensions as shown on the approved site plan. As a result, the structure was then removed. Section 7.080D of the zoning ordinance detail the requirements for variances not involving special flood hazard areas. These are detailed below. Zoning variance requirements, section 7.080 of the municipal zoning ordinance lists general requirements for a zoning variance request. Those requirements, the staff findings are as follows. Section 7.080, procedure for authorizing zoning variance. B, the board shall not grant a variance unless it makes finding based upon evidence presented as follows. The physical surroundings, shape, topographic conditions of the specific property involved that would result in a particular hardship upon the owner as distinguished from a mere inconvenience. If the strict application of this ordinance were carried out must be stated. Staff finds the property does have unique circumstances in regards to the shape of the lot since it is located at the end of a cul-de-sac. Typical residential lots have 4 sides with a rectangular shape, whereas the subject parcel resembles an oblong pie shape. The conditions upon which a petition for a variance is based would not be applicable generally to other property within the same district. The property is a uniquely shaped lot due to the cul-de-sac along the front lot line. This situation is not atypical of other lots within town that are located on a cul-de-sac. The variance will not authorize activities in a zone district other than those permitted by this ordinance. Additions are allowed within the R3 district but are to adhere to all setback requirements of the principal structure. Financial returns shall not be considered as a basis for granting a variance. The applicant has not identified financial returns as a reason for this request. The alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property after the effective date of this ordinance. The applicant represents the homeowner but was not involved in the creation of the lot. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same districts. Staff finds that the variance requested could provide the applicant with special privileges denied by the ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings within the R3 district due to a structure encroaching upon the rear setback. The variance is the minimum that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Staff finds that the requested setback variance may not be the minimum to make the reasonable use of the structure for the proposed use. In addition, could still be constructed and meet setback requirements. The granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the area in which the property is located. Staff finds the variance should not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the area, as the structure would not be located on any easements. The proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, substantially increase the congestion in the public streets, increase the danger of fire, endanger public safety, or substantially diminish or impair property values in the area. Staff finds the variance may not have any of the above effects. Number 10 is not applicable in this case. In conclusion, staff finds that this property is not a traditionally shaped lot, and being at the end of a cul-de-sac does create a pie-shaped lot. However, based on submitted plans, an addition could still be constructed to meet setback requirements. A plan was previously submitted and constructed incorrectly, resulting in the demolition of the built addition. The plan is to construct the previously approved addition, including an extra 126 square feet, yielding the total requested addition of 408 square feet. So this is a picture from the side of the house, looking back towards where that addition was. So this area right here, you can see that's where the brick is no longer located. That's where the addition previously was, that was demoed after. So it's a bit of a zoomed out so you can see the shape of the cul-de-sac. It's not a traditional cul-de-sac that would bulb out right here, but it's kind of comes off like that. So all these lots in this area are pie-shaped, similar to other cul-de-sacs, but that does create a oblong pie-shaped lot that they would have to deal with. And this is zoomed in just a little bit more to give you a better idea. So this area right here that's black outlined with a gray interior, that is the addition that was previously approved by codes to be built and constructed that was removed. This aerial picture was taken, the addition is still there, but it was removed after this picture was taken. So this just gives you an idea for what they did have approved and should have constructed. And then the additional behind that, the yellow, is the area in which the further beyond the previously approved area that is encroaching upon the setback. So really the yellow area is what we're concerned about encroaching upon the setback. They could still construct that area with the black outline and still meet setback requirements. We also have had a couple calls from the neighbors on this. Several voiced concerns about it. And other than that, that is it.
Where was the sinkhole? On
It's up in the
upper corner?
top corner up there.
Does anybody know it's checked out safe?
I don't know.
I guess you clarified the one concern, which was, or not concern, but the one thing that addition no longer exists because your picture shows it better than the overhead. But they've been approved for that first section, so that's, like you said, it's irrelevant to the conversation today.
Yeah, because that does meet setbacks. That would not be.
And
an
they
issue
could
if
still
went back.
come back and build it to spec that they got approved the first time.
Yeah, there may be a chance they have to get a new permit for it, likely would have to get another
Correct.
permit for it, but, yeah, for all intents and purposes, this is more of just a visual to show you what was there, the discrepancy between the photo that was taken today versus aerial photography shown when it was there.
Chairman, I have a question. Mitch, this says Tree of Hope. Is this a residential or a special exception use?
It is my understanding that this is the contractor representing the homeowner as part of the submittal for the construction.
Oh, okay. But it's a residential use house.
Correct, to my understanding, yes.
Any more questions for Mitch before we go to a public hearing? If not, I'll go ahead and close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open up a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against this request. If you do, please step to the podium and state your name and address. And I would like to clarify, are there any time limits in this or no? No? Okay. So yeah, if there's anybody for or against would like to speak, please step to the podium and, like I said, state your name and address and we'll listen.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Jeff Davenport, and I live at 609 Woodhaven Drive, which is directly behind the residence that's in question here. I believe from Mitch's first picture, where it showed the side of the house, you can actually see the upstairs windows of our home behind that fence. Yeah, there. So we are actually opposed to any setback variance for this, for the zone. Just a little bit, behind that, the couple that had originally lived there whenever we moved in that had that built, they thought it was built to code or, at that time, very quiet, very respectful. But we have lived there 18 years. We've had multiple other families that have came in, moved and had different ownerships. And over that course of time, there have been extensive entertainment. I think that property was used for quite a bit for family get-togethers, which is great. But with that setback, with that coming closer to the back fence, as you can see from that picture, our bedroom windows are the windows that are above that second story there. So even a normal conversation in the evening, once the white noise of the town kind of starts to die down a little bit, carries right into that upstairs. My wife is a coach. She often gets up 4:30 in the morning or so to have to drive or take kids to athletic events. And so where the ordinance for sound hasn't always been abided by for residents, where those have gone, past 10 o'clock or so on weekdays, well into almost 2 a.m., 2:30 on weekends. That's why we'd be opposed now, is because once it's built, we never know what's going to happen after that's allowed to be put up there. So the closer, if what was there before is put back up, there was some noise there, but it was, we accepted that because that was what was approved previous. Any request to come further towards the property line or the fence line, though, just puts that noise closer to our home, closer to where our living room is on the first floor, our bedroom's on the second floor. And so it would, be at cost to us.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Davenport? Thank you.
I think as far as the sinkhole, I can speak to that a little bit if you had question. Whenever we first moved in, that was a natural water table or low-lying area there that the builders had just built up with dirt, so it actually pooled water. We had our home come close, and our next-door neighbors actually had their crawl space flooded a couple times. The town of Smyrna did come in and put a drainage pipe there that runs from our property line with our neighbors next door out and then down to the storm drain water system. So the water and the standing and stuff there is no longer an issue for that.
Awesome. Thank you for
Good
that.
to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak for or against this request? Please step to the podium, state your name and address.
My name is Ishmael Sarabia, and I live at 101 McCall Lane. I'm a contractor helping
Okay.
homeowners. So I just wanted to add on that the 20-foot setback from the property line goes parallel to the property line. And so I don't know if this particular or not, but the variance would just be at a triangle shape, it wouldn't be the whole.
At this bottom corner here.
Yeah, I don't have a pointer, but I guess if we could go parallel to the bottom, to the fence line would be, I guess not the whole thing.
Right, so you're saying that the top corner is within the
Within the
variance, it's just
variance.
for this bottom corner
That's
that's not.
correct, yeah, yes, sir.
That makes sense.
But I understand everybody's concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have a, okay. Gotta do my other part. So at this time, I'll close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. Do we have any more questions for staff? I guess that's a question. We don't have a drawing that shows exactly how much that corner is or something, At what point is the 20-foot setback the issue?
So the rear of the structure on that corner that he was referring to is 4 feet encroaching in. The fence line
If the fence
is
line was straight and the
where the property line's at, so I mean, come in 20 foot, you're 4 foot, you're cutting maybe.
Yeah, so you're just cutting off that one.
Yeah, I mean, it extends a little bit right there, but yeah.
And that structure is roughly, it's somewhere, it's in the 40 here.
126
Six,
square
well,
foot.
it's 6 foot, so it would make that corner 2 foot by, if I was good at geometry, so,
I have a
2 foot by
question.
6 foot.
Mitch, is that an open-air structure, enclosed structure?
As far as I am aware, it is a enclosed sunroom area. At least that's what it was previously applied for, under the last permit.
The whole area, not just this addition.
I believe it's the entire area.
Okay. It's not like internal with a small sunroom attached to it. The whole room is a sunroom. Okay.
Yeah, I got a couple. So the addition that was built, taken down, and now gonna be rebuilt, that corner, that's the setback line right there?
No, so they could, with this addition being an extra 6 feet off, requesting a 4-foot variance, you can build out an extra 2 feet beyond their original 10-foot off the
2
house.
foot, okay,
So
gotcha.
you can go 12 foot and be within setbacks.
Okay. This is single-story structure or 2-story?
The addition is
The addition.
single, because you can kind of see it on that, if you go back to the picture, Mitch,
Oops.
the cutoff.
Other way.
Going
There we
the wrong
go.
way.
There you go.
Yeah, so you can
it's
see
just
where
on
that,
bottom
where it's
level.
filmed off there, plasticed off where they
Yep.
demoed the existing addition.
So essentially, they could easily still build the new place, add 2 feet onto it, and
And still meet all setback
still meet
requirements.
all the setback requirements.
And there is some additional space on the northern side as well, if they so choose to go out, push it out a little bit that way too.
True.
Towards that big tree?
Correct. From a space standpoint, whether or not there's a tree or something in the ways.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But there is the option to go that direction and still be
Yeah.
within the,
They have room for the setbacks to do that, yes.
They'd have to reapply and do all the stuff for that, footprint.
Building, yeah,
Yep.
for building permits.
Any more discussion? Any questions for staff? I mean, there is a hardship with the lay of the land that we've dealt with in the past, but there's also several options where they can make their square footage fit into what they have, so.
Oh, I agree with you. I think if they shifted this yellow portion up, they could do like a wrap around the corner and still stay, square footage would be there, and setbacks would be maintained, and not even have to worry about encroaching on the neighbors.
I agree with that.
I'll entertain a motion if anyone has one.
I will make a motion to deny on lack of hardship based on that there is enough area for them to be able to still do their addition without completely needing the setback.
I have a motion with comments due to lack of hardship based on the fact that there is room in the footprint of the setback to build to still gain the square footage they're looking for. Do I have is that good? Council? Good.
That is.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All third.
Sorry.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of denial of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion.
Well,
is
let me.
How did I say that
Double
wrong?
negative.
Yeah.
All in favor
All in
of
favor
the
of-
motion.
Denial.
All in favor
I'm
of
trying to think of how you
the
worded that.
denied
So
motion.
It was a double negative.
I think it's all in favor of the motion.
All in favor of the motion of denial, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is denied. Next on the agenda is a sign variance by Gavin Schultz, 291 Blair Road. Mitch?
Yes, so, this request has been updated since packet went out last week, so, this is the similar request, to the one that we reviewed last month. there have been some updates to it since then. The applicant was able to reach out to our utilities department, meet with someone on site to have them review the area where the sign would be located for this northern entrance. The original request that from the packets were sent out included a subdivision entrance sign for the north and the south of Portico Place for the subdivision. Since that time, when the applicant was able to meet with the utilities department, they have nixed the southern sign, so that is no longer part of the request tonight. We're just gonna be reviewing the northern entrance sign. So I'll go, that's a little bit of backstory on it. The report at least, Portico Place subdivision requesting to install a subdivision entrance sign at the northern entrance of the subdivision on the corner of Portico Place and Blair Road. The sign ordinance requires a minimum setback from the center point of the intersection of at least 75 feet. A sign easement is shown on the plat, however, no aspect pertaining to signage is reviewed as a part of the plat process. All signs require a separate permit and are to meet sign ordinance requirements. When packets went out last week, the applicant was in the process of coordinating a meeting with the utilities department to figure out a location where they can put the northern entrance sign. Based on the plan that you have before you for the sign, more or less to give you a visual of what we're talking about here, the applicant was able to talk to the utilities department, get a agreement that the pedestals for the sign could be placed no closer than 2 feet from the gas mains and still be acceptable. So that was an agreement between applicant and utilities department, so we're good on both sides with that aspect that we were not good on last month. So just to fill you in on that portion of it. It would, if the sign were to be pushed back the full same 5 feet in that general area, it would still be interfering with the constructed townhouse. So an easement or a variance is still being requested at this time. Chapter 9, Section F.2 of the sign ordinance lists criteria that must be considered by the board when evaluating a variance request. For an action granting a variance, the board shall state the provisions being varied and shall grant the minimum variance to satisfy the relief of hardship and shall state the specific hardship which justifies the variance. The board shall not grant a variance unless it makes findings based upon evidence presented as it follows. The particular surroundings, shape, or topographic conditions of the specific property involved would result in an exceptional hardship upon the owner as distinguished from mere inconvenience. Staff finds that there are no unique circumstances in regards to the surroundings, shape, or topographic conditions of the specific property. There is a 20-foot utility easement along the front of the lots which front Blair Road and underground gas line on the northern side of Portico Place. As of last week when this was written, which would prevent a sign from being located in that space without approval from the utilities department, which they have since received. It's located in that area. The conditions upon which the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable to other similar situated properties. Staff finds that the conditions upon which the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable to other similarly situated properties. The sign could be reduced in size to meet the 75-foot setback from the center point of the intersection. The hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property. The subdivision plat and construction of the dwellings was completed by the applicant on the back when, this is a little bit different from last week also. When packets went out, they were looking at the southern subdivision entrance sign. The utility pedestals are located in that area of the subdivision entrance sign for the southern side of it. So that second part of this sentence is no longer applicable in this case. Financial returns only shall not be considered as a basis for granting a variance. The applicant has not identified financial returns as a reason for this request. The variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or interest to other property or the intent and spirit of the ordinance. Staff finds the variance may not be detrimental or injurious to other property or to the public welfare. Using details found in the subdivision regulations, a vision triangle was created by staff and found the proposed placement of the sign does not impede motorist vision. The variance does not confer a special privilege to the applicant that is denied to others. Staff finds that signs are allowed per the sign ordinance, however it restricts the location for setbacks as to where the sign may be placed on the property. In conclusion, staff finds the applicant is involved with the construction of the dwelling and subdivision of the property to build the dwellings. The placement and size of the open spaces to locate the subdivision entrance sign is a constricted area and restricts the location desired to install a sign due to the design of the subdivision plat. Any sign placement within a utility easement or in close proximity to underground utilities would require approval from our utilities department, which we have received again. The utility pedestals for the southern sign are required by our codes department, and placing the sign to meet setbacks would interfere with the constructed townhomes and maintain visibility from Blair Road. So, as briefly alluded to earlier with my mistake, these are the signs for pictures from, this was from last month, just to give you an idea. So this is standing across Blair Road. Blair Road runs here, portico's here. So we're looking at this side only for the sign. Taken on site today, difficult to see, but they do have flags here marking where the gas line is located. It wasn't painted on the lawn or anything as far as where that location would be at, so it's just a rough guesstimate, approximate 2 foot off of that location in that general vicinity. Kind of probably somewhere, I would guess somewhere along in this area is where that would be placed. This gives a overhead visual for where the townhomes are located. The line right here is going to be the gas line. The sign they're wanting to locate is right here. The 75 feet that is mentioned in the ordinance that the setback has, that the signs have to meet to be set back from the center point of the intersection, be measured from this point right here, which is taken from the center of Portico to the center of Blair, which meets about right there. Measuring to that distance to the sign yields 60 feet. 75 minus 60, we get 15 feet, so they're requesting a 15-foot variance as part of this request here tonight. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mitch. Can you clarify for me the, how you refer to this, chapter 9, 2B, that says, the last sentence on that, the sign could be reduced in size to meet the 75-foot setback variance, is that? Are we saying if this that we have in front of us is smaller, they could put it somewhere else that?
That's not necessarily what it's pertaining to.
Okay.
What that's
I made that
pertaining
wrong.
to is the common area right here is ideally where the sign would be located, not in private property. Where they are showing it would be within a sign easement, which
Okay.
is not reviewed as part of the
Okay.
plat process, but that's where they're trying to put it. So that comment is referring to shrinking down the size if they still want it angled a certain way towards Blair Road.
And move
then
it
shifting
down
back
to the
into
side
that
of the
common
building,
area.
so.
Got it.
In this case, a lot of things we look at is based on hardship, right? So the hardship here is still, to me, something that was created by the developer with trying to squeeze in as many things to that, to the narrowness of that property there. So, any other questions for Mitch before we go to?
Yeah, I've
Public
got
hearing.
one. I'm curious why the sign, why doesn't this come up in the plat, you know, as they're doing the design of the placement of the buildings? This is typical that it comes in afterwards?
It is the sign process is completely separate from the plats. Sometimes they will show it on, sometimes they will not on these. It's not a requirement that they show us where it's gonna be located. It's always reviewed at a later time. As far as location, we state in our staff comments to them that signs are to be reviewed separately at a later date, permitted separately to meet ordinance requirements. That's how it's stated then during plat and site plan process.
And I'd say probably usually maybe an afterthought, like just something, we know we gotta put a sign up, but it's a sign. It's probably not,
Yeah, and then,
Important.
other question I had is, in that picture you showed, it looked like there was also room on the back side of those yellow flags? Is that then private property?
Yeah, so the issue we then get into, these are individual lots.
Okay.
As you can see from right here, these are individual lots. We want to avoid putting this on a private property.
Okay.
but the common area you're saying is a potential, if the sign was a different shape, size, format.
Yep. For most subdivisions, they are placed in the common space, which is owned and maintained by the HOA.
Right. Any other questions before I go to public? Okay. At this time, I'll go ahead and close the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting and open up a public hearing for any of those that would like to speak for or against this request. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. Did that give you enough time to come up with a question?
Well, one of the concerns I have is the placement so close to the natural gas line. I know they've spoke to the Utilities Department, and maybe this is a question for Benjamin. Are we setting a precedence to start locating these within easements that's really dedicated for the maintenance of that utility and construction?
The findings need to be as particular to that, property in that regard as they can be, so that it's not necessarily setting a precedent. Hold on, Mitch said something.
Yeah, say all these are considered case by case.
I was gonna say, Jeff told us that before.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's an issue with setting precedent in this regard, or in this particular matter.
So our decision today won't affect the next time this comes up. It's all
But
independent.
my only question was, if we approve it here, then the next guy comes up and says, well, you've approved it within utility easement before, so what's different
Nope.
now?
Yep,
Yeah.
and he can say that.
Yeah.
But
He can. But Jeff Peach had told us about a year ago, every case is its own individual case, so it doesn't matter.
So the more particular, the findings can be and reasons why you either approve or don't approve, the more specific it is, the easier the argument is that it's not precedent when it's particular.
But good question, good discussion for sure.
Mitch, would you mind to repeat
Sure.
what it was that the utilities, like what they came to an agreement on with that?
Sure. So the applicant met with the utilities department on site, agreed that the sign could be located. The footings on the graphic you have before you was presented earlier this week. Just to give you a visual representation, so the footings of that sign, that could be no closer than the 2 feet to where the gas line is at. Utilities department felt like if they need to get and do the work in that area, they could remove the center portion of that sign, not interfere with it as much as a normal, typical
Right.
beefed up sign. So it was that reason they came to the conclusion. That 2 foot was an agreed upon amount between utilities and the applicant, and that was the discussion as far as I understand it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that. Thank you.
So off of this drawing, it shows that the two posts, 24 inches in width, is it our assumption that it's 24 inch in depth? So that the 2 foot away from that gas line is actually gonna put the face of the sign 3 feet away.
The way I would look at this, they're gonna have to get in touch with the utilities department if this gets approved. They would have to get in touch with utilities to get someone on site to mark it, figure out exactly where it needs to be located, make sure that 2 foot is. The way, for example, other signs are administered with a 10-foot setback, say. Leading edge of the sign has to be, so even if, doesn't matter where your pole's at, leading edge has to be at least 10 foot away. So I would interpret this like closest point of that could be no closer than 2 feet to the gas main.
So to my point is if we're 2 foot away from the gas line and the sign is 2 foot thick, is that 60 feet actually 58?
No, so the 60 foot, that's gonna be no, 60 foot is the closest point to the center point.
Okay.
Yes.
So it
So
had to be
60 foot's
behind
good.
that regardless.
Yes.
Okay.
I still don't necessarily feel super comfortable with it being even that close to the gas line.
And this is the gas line that feeds the whole community? Do we know?
It does, you can,
Like, is this a 5-inch line, a 2-inch line?
I'd imagine, I don't know what the exact dimension on it is. You can see in the picture in your packet, you can see where that gas line runs back into the
Mhm.
development.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine it does serve this, and
That's the main for the whole neighborhood.
I can't say for certainty, but just looking at, you can see where it runs on
Yeah, at the top of the
Imaging
page,
packet.
it crosses Blair.
That one.
crossing Blair's a water line.
It's up here,
Oh,
and then it comes down across. So it's over
oh,
here.
it goes over, okay, thank you.
Any more questions for staff or discussion between us? I'm open for our motion.
I will make a motion to deny based on lack of hardship, with also the board still feeling concerned with the utilities coming into play and enough room in the common area to construct a sign that would fit in the area.
I have a motion to deny based on lack of hardship, concern with utilities, and available space to construct a sign elsewhere on the property. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion to deny the request has been approved. Next on the agenda is staff comments and/or other business.
I have nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight.
That's it.
Next on the agenda is adjournment. Thank you.